Test, test. All right, we ready, Alex? Sydney? Good. Right. Welcome everyone to the Cottonwood Heights City Administrative Hearing. Today is January 7th, 2026. My name is Jim Spung. I'll be the Administrative Hearing Officer today. We've got three items on our agenda today. We'll start with the business items. 1.1. This is project CUP-25-019, a public hearing request from Tamara Halsey. Sorry if I said that wrong. For a wall height extension at 2184 East, 7495 South. So I'll just run through the general procedures for this meeting. So first we'll have the staff presentation, and then we'll invite the applicant to come forward if they have anything to add. We'll open a public hearing. Anyone here that wants to speak will have 3 minutes. We'll close the public hearing, and then we'll deliberate and make a decision. So staff, if you want to come up.
Okay. Give it a second. Sorry, the screen share button's being so slow. Okay, there we go. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, perfect. So the first project is going to be for a conditional use wall height extension. The property address is 2184 East, 7495 South, and then the staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. The applicant is proposing to construct an 8-foot fence along the 20-foot portion of the south property line. The increased fence height is requested to improve safety and privacy, as the property behind their property is an HOA-owned common area. There's currently a 4-foot concrete retaining wall on the property line, but the applicant is proposing to install a 4-foot fence on top of the retaining wall, so it'd be a total of 8 feet tall. It would be constructed from cedar wood that would match the surrounding area. And we've included an aerial image of the location of the proposed fence or wall. And then here's an image of the existing fence. Again, that 4-foot concrete retaining wall. The proposed fence would be similar to this photo, showing a 4-foot high retaining wall with the 4-foot high cedar fence on top. So again, adding up to 8 feet. The fencing code does allow 8 feet in any zone as a conditional use and up to 12 feet as a conditional use with neighbor consent. As this proposal is only requesting 8 feet, consent is not required from neighbors. And it received no public comments. And then after review, staff finds that increased fence height proposed by the applicant is a reasonable privacy enhancement and would help with separating from that HOA common area. We do recommend the recommended conditions of approval would be a building permit and all necessary inspections, and that building permit would clearly state the materials design and not exceed a total of 8 feet from the existing grade. Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Emma. Is the applicant here? And if so, do they wish to add anything? Okay, can you come up to the microphone? Yeah, that'd be great. And then just state your name for the record.
My name is Tamara Halse, and I do not have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for mispronouncing your name. Okay, thanks. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. So anyone here wishing to speak on this matter can do so now. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I had the opportunity to review the staff report prior to the meeting, and it was helpful to have Emma present the information. I don't have any questions or anything to add to this item, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve item CUP 25-019, subject to the conditions of approval outlined in the report as well as in the oral presentation by Emma. Great. Thank you for being here. We'll move on to item 1.12, project CUP-25-020, a public hearing request from Stephen Carlston for a wall height extension at 3206 Chula Vista Circle. So we'll go ahead and turn the time to staff to present this case. Emma's back.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks.
Emma.
Okay, so this is similar to the last case. This applicant, Stephen Carlston, also for a conditional use wall height extension located at 3206 Chula Vista Circle. Staff recommendation is also to approve with conditions. The applicant is proposing to construct an 8-foot fence along a portion of the southwest property line. This increased fence height is requested to hide an RV or a boat along the side of the home. The applicant's home is on a slope, and the extra 2 feet will significantly assist in fulfilling the HOA's bylaws of minimizing the visual impact of such vehicles from the road or neighboring lots. There's currently a fence on the south side of the property to the middle of the house, and part of the existing fence is already 8 feet, but most of it is 6 feet. So the proposed fence would extend roughly 10 yards beyond the existing fence, but will not extend beyond the existing home. The proposed fence is an 8-foot brown Trex fence. Here's a photo of the existing fence. Again, it ranges from 6 to 8 feet, depending on the location. It does terminate around the middle of the home. The proposed fence is an 8-foot brown Trex fence that extends about 10 yards beyond the existing fence. As mentioned previously, fencing code does say 8 feet is permitted in any zone as a conditional use and up to 12 feet as a conditional use with neighbor consent. Again, this proposal is requesting only 8 feet, so consent is not required. There was one public comment, which was received over email and forwarded to the hearing officer. And then staff analysis, we find that the increased fence height would be a reasonable privacy enhancement and help hide that RV or boat. We do recommend approving with conditions, and those are the same conditions from the previous project, that a building permit and all necessary inspections should be obtained and completed, and that the building permit will clearly state the materials, design, and shall not exceed a total height of 8 feet from existing grade.
All right, thank you, Emma. Like to invite the applicant forward if they're here. You could just state your name for the record, please.
All right, Steve Carlston.
Mm, great.
And then one clarification on my request is that my HOA subsequently had, a couple of years ago, changed our bylaws to a 6-foot fence. I've talked with my HOA. I have 2 of the 7 members of the board here. And again, they are willing to consider an 8-foot variance subject to the city approving an 8-foot variance. So one clarification. Other than that,
Okay,
that's represented.
great. I did have one question. So we did receive a public comment from Mr. Larson. I think he's your neighbor to the south. Just concerned about the height and how far the fence would be, I guess, extending into his front yard, but your side yard. The reason for the fence height was, as Emma mentioned, to screen RV or boat storage. Is the plan to pave that area on the south side of the garage for parking?
Yeah,
Or-
we would conform
okay.
to whatever the HOA requires in our bylaws and in our area. The fence would be the first step, and then, once we determine what we're going to do as far as an RV or a camping trailer, we'll obviously conform to the HOA requirements. We're not trying to exceed any legal use of our property predicated upon the current Cottonwood Heights code, where we take the fence to the frontage of our home, the frontage of our home easement. We're not going beyond that.
Mhm.
So it should be a legally conforming usage.
Okay. All right. And then just a follow-up question to that, what would the timing be on, having that concrete pad or other area paved? Because I guess based on how it's articulated here is that would be the justification for having the taller fence. But if you currently couldn't legally park a boat or trailer there today, I guess it's the chicken and egg thing.
Probably.
My stance is leaning that the concrete work would have to be done with the permit for the fence, just so that the fence isn't there first for who knows how long, and then eventually there's a concrete pad because the concrete pad would be the precursor to needing the fence to be 8 feet. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. There's a part of me that disagrees with that argument simply because legally we have a right to a 6-foot fence in that same
Sure.
space without anything.
Right.
So the variance would be putting an 8-foot fence in. So then the question is, do you put the fence in? Contractors right now are about 2 to 3 months out to put the fence in and then
Mhm.
put the pad in. Do you put the pad in and then put the fence in? I really don't care. It really just comes down to, getting the variance for the fence, then getting the
Mhm.
variance from my HOA agreeing to that, and then,
Mhm.
running the project as to the timing of the fencing contractor. I guess that's up to you how you'd want to approve it and how you'd want to handle. We'll
Yeah,
conform to
so
whatever you tell us.
sure. So I think either one would make sense. The concrete pad would go in first, or you could do it simultaneously as part of the fence improvements. I just think that they would have to be related to where we wouldn't approve the 8-foot fence alone without having the parking area there. So, okay. Do you have any questions or other comments or?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the public hearing portion. So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this item can come forward. All right, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And then as Emma mentioned, we did receive a public comment from Mr. Larson, which we did review. Again, the primary concern was the fence height in proximity to his property. Based on the city code, there is a provision that would allow for an applicant or a property owner to increase fence height beyond 6 feet, subject to a conditional use review and approval, building permit, and then meeting the standards outlined in the code for that project. So here in the staff report, it was indicated that the increased fence height was justified to hide RV and boat storage along the side of the home. And this is to comply with the HOA's bylaws. To be clear, the city doesn't get involved with HOA bylaws or enforcing or regulating anything related to that. However, based on the city's ordinances, I will make a motion to approve CUP 25-020, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report, as well as articulated by Emma, with the additional condition that the 8-foot fence be installed either after or concurrently with the paved surface for the boat and RV parking on the south side of the home. With that, we will move on to item 2, the consent agenda. This is approval of administrative hearing officer minutes from January 7th, 2026. And I'll just read here how that will be handled. It says the administrative hearing officer will approve the minutes of January 7th, 2026 meeting after the following process is met. The city recorder will prepare the minutes and email them to the hearing officer. The hearing officer will have 5 days to review the minutes and provide any changes to the recorder. If after 5 days there are no changes, the minutes will stand approved. If there are changes, the process will be followed until the changes are made and the hearing officer is in agreement, at which time the minutes shall be deemed approved. All right, so with that done, well, I'll move to approve the minutes from January 7th, 2026, and subsequently we'll adjourn the meeting. So